All right, so this is week 6, and one of the things that we're talking about this week is the psychometric properties of instruments, mainly validity and reliability. So I'll speak a little bit about this because for my dissertation I actually developed an instrument, um, which is not something I would wish on anyone. It was a very difficult process and very statistics intensive. But basically, when we look at validity, the essential question we're asking is, does this instrument measure what it says it measures? And reliability is basically a question of how stable a construct is, or a measurement tool is. So with validity, it's not so much that yes it has validity or no it doesn't. It's more of evidence. Sort of think of it like a lawyer building a case. You're building a case for why this instrument works, and so there are different kinds of validity. Um, One way of establishing validity is comparing the results of one test to an already established test, um, to see does it work at the same level as other similar instruments. Can it distinguish between groups? So if you have a test that measures ADHD, can it distinguish kids that have ADHD in a class that already have a diagnosis? And can it also identify kids who are neurotypical? That's another way. Something that every instrument does is looking at content analysis, so looking at, does this match the literature? Does this match expert opinion? Um, as well, is this something that has a solid factor structure, which is something a little more complex, but basically, is there statistical support for the different domains that you have in your instrument? And then reliability, and I say uh, a lot of people, the classic kind of reliability is test retest, which is you give a test at one period in time, allow some time to elapse, and then you test again and see how those scores correlate. However, I find for some instruments that might not be the best way because some instruments are trying to measure change. So obviously the scores are going to change a little bit. But some different ways are creating parallel forms, which you'll read about in your text. Also, internal consistency reliability, which is basically a measure of how well the items correlate with one another. For reliability, you have reliability coefficients, and generally zero point 0.7 is the minimum of what a quality instrument would have. Um, the book on psychometric theory, written by Nunnally and Bernstein, states that zero point 0.7 is pretty much the minimum. Zero point 0.8 is good for between subjects research, and zero point 0.9 is really what you want when you're making individual decisions that are high-stakes decisions. So, for instance, if you're using an academic achievement test or an IQ test to decide whether or not to place someone in special education or a social adjustment classroom, you'd really want strong reliability. You wouldn't want an instrument that wasn't that stable. So those are the two things that we're looking at this week. So I'd encourage you to look up some instruments. You can also look up my instrument. It's on my beta that is in the Contact the Instructor biography of me. And see if you have any questions or there are any things that pop out at you. All right. I'll see you guys later.